filed the 2,000 signatures already, correct? Have you filed with the Supreme Court asking for the clock to
Today.
restart?
Yeah, well, Don said he was going to file it this morning.
That's being filed today.
Yes, so I assume he has filed it this morning.
Is there anything else that, the language to the HE, has that been submitted?
No, that's not, but that's prepared to go as well. It's a very simple process because it's a repeal of the entire bill.
Mm.
The delay on House Bill 194 was when former Secretary of State Bruner parceled out part of it. We're going to include the entire bill.
Okay.
What would you consider a fair map? 8 ones that favor 8
Well, there's
Republicans
16
and 10?
congressional districts as proposed under because of the decennial census. I recognize that we're probably not going to get 16 Democratic seats or 16 Republican seats, but I'm open to all suggestions. And I know the Speaker of the House, the Minority Leader of the House, Armin Budish, and the Minority Leader of the Senate are open to having those discussions. There is one caveat and one commitment, and that is the continued commitment to a majority-minority district, first and foremost, in Cuyahoga County with 12th Congressional District. And Speaker Batchelor has mentioned that many times as well.
Are you okay with the way they drew the existing majority-minority district?
You know, I'm going to let the legislative leaders weigh in on that rather than me.
I wonder if Mayor McLin, if you could talk about your concern about maintaining fair minority districts in the state. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that?
Oh, I think it's...
Can you step to the mic when you go?
Okay. Thank you. I think it's extremely important that we keep the majority district. And that's been a deal that was set back in the 60s, right after the Civil Rights Movement and the Voting Act. And I think that for a state like Ohio, to have that district and to have that assuredness, and as you may well know, that Stephanie Tubbs Jones was such a lively force in that seat, as well as Louis Stokes. So people have come to know and recognize that this is something that we need to have in the state. And I think it's by federal law that we're supposed to have this, and that if the maps are drawn correctly, we could even expand that, but we know we need to assure a congressional 12th district.
What about the apportionment board? Are you planning any kind of legal challenge to the state lines?
No, that's the challenges to the apportionment board come out of the legislature from the minority side. We've not looked at whether or not the state party should take that cause up quite yet. There is some time, especially knowing that the minority leaders in both the House and Senate are engaged in those discussions, that I feel confident that if we were to go down that path, working in concert with them, we could. I know also, I heard this morning that Tom's bringing the Senate back into session, and there's talk about the House coming back into session to deal with the primary issue. It just doesn't make any sense in a state that's fiscally challenged, like Ohio, that we run 2 primaries, one state primary and one federal primary. So I would urge my former colleagues in the legislature to move the primary and have both state and federal primary together, so as not to diminish already tight state and local resources. And a true fiscal conservative would do that, so that's what these folks liken themselves as, so I expect that to happen.
So on the filing deadline, currently, after that now is in place, then it's in violation of federal law. So would it go to a judge to decide at that point?
I would be interested. That's one opinion I would be interested in hearing from Bill Batchelor. I can only point out that there is ample time between now and that, whether it be a bedsheet ballot or a federal judge or intervening at some level. There's ample time. It's October. It's October in the odd year. We have plenty of time, first to move the primary, settle in, and come to a conclusion. But we have to start the discussions as soon as possible because the 60 or 90-day window has commenced, and we've lost a month because of the political shenanigans that Bill and Tom played by placing this appropriation. And to Tom's credit, he came out and said he's putting an appropriation in the doggone thing because he didn't want to have a referendum. And why would he do that? Because he was concerned if a referendum took place, these gerrymandered maps would be rejected by the people of the state of Ohio. And I mean, come on. When you have Ralph Regula agreeing with me, it seems to me that I've already won the fight, the rhetorical fight. Congressman Regula is right. The editorial boards, the Plain Dealer, and others are in this case right. So I think, sorry, Joe, I think that we have presented a sound argument.
Speaking of editorial boards, a couple of them came out this weekend on the other side of SB5. You got a comment on that?
Shocking. Breaking news. Glenn doesn't like the referendum and thinks we should support Senate Bill 5. No.
Were you shocked? Did you really expect them to come out on the
No.
other side?
I fully anticipated the dispatch and Plain Dealer to support the provisions in Senate Bill 5. But I've never been one to seek the support of a handful of writers who write editorials for the Plain Dealer and the Dispatch. Our job is to seek the support of Democrats and independents and like-minded Republicans all across the state. And if anybody believes this is a Democrat versus Republican issue, they've not reviewed the 1.3 million signatures that were collected. They don't know Bill Seitz. They don't know Tim Grindell. They don't know Randy Gardner. All Republican legislators who voted against this bill. They don't know other legislators, both past and present, who have voted against this bill. They don't understand that the makeup of Ohio's public fire and police unions is not solidly Democrat. The same with the teachers. This is a cross-section of Republicans and Democrats, labor and business, your friends, your neighbors, moms and dads, who believe that Ohioans should have the right to sit down and collectively bargain amongst each other and with their peers to do things like pay for bulletproof vests, share costs for health care, share costs for fire trucks and those who will staff those fire trucks. It's quite simple. And if Glenn or those up at the Plain Deal have a difference of opinion, they're free to have that difference of opinion.
I guess what I'm trying to get you to talk about is the overriding sense, in at least the Plain Dealer and somewhat in the Dispatch, was that they believe there are flaws with the bill, there are things that need to be corrected.
Sure.
Can you correct the bill after a referendum? And
Yeah,
then they're turning around saying vote for it. So what happens with that?
It's like editorializing that John Kasich, the magnanimous, noble John Kasich, came to those of us who opposed Senate Bill 5 in August and offered a compromise, and we should have taken it. I was there in March. You were there in March when they locked the State House doors, and they said that you couldn't come into the State House. And as a former legislator, I was allowed in. The State House was empty. You were there. It was empty. It was this attitude that they've conveyed over the course of the first 10 months that they have had power here in Ohio, that it's their way or the highway. And the people of the state are going to speak up. On November 8th, I expect that we will reject Senate Bill 5 resoundingly, and I think that we'll go forth and legislative leaders would do well to remember that it's the will of the people that matter most.
Take one more question, please.